folks, welcome back to 3 Barrow Farm. My name is Amy and I'm in my kitchen today. So today I wanted to chat to you and show you all the things I have preserved over the summer and autumn. And I've just had to move to a separate room because the rest of my family are too noisy. This is what happens when you homeschool and your husband works from home and you're trying to get things recorded. So I wanted to chat to you a little bit about this year's growing season and where I measure the growing season from. So I classify our growing season harvest timeline to be from the 1st of December to the end of April, depending on where the first frost lies. This year we got our frost towards the end of April, but because we were away, the harvest season for us ended at the beginning of April. Now, this is my first year recording the weight of all the vegetables and some of the fruit that we grow here on our farm. So I have nothing to compare it by, but hopefully as the years go on, we can compare what happens in the garden, compare how the weather goes, especially now that we're leading into drought years. We've had very wet years of late, and now they're slowly teetering off, and we will get into drier drought years. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as I continue to improve the soil and feed more nutrients into the soil. It will be interesting to see if it withstands the hot summers that we will have and the lack of rain that we will eventually have. This year I experimented with growing things under frost cloth, and I was able to harvest our first potatoes on the 15th of December. Normally I'd be harvesting potatoes late January or even into February. At the end of our harvest season, I grew 43.8 kilograms of potatoes. So along with the potatoes, I also had some early zucchini plants under frost cloth. And we picked our first zucchinis in December. For some reason, I have not written down the date. So I'm gathering that it would have been towards the end of December. By the end of our harvest season, I grew 37.9 kilograms of zucchinis. So zucchinis have always been very prolific for me. I've never had a year where I haven't had a lot of zucchinis. I feel like most people have an abundance of zucchinis every year, but again, it'll be interesting to see if it changes, if I get more in coming years. I had approximately 5 plants of zucchinis, and then I planted some late, but they didn't fruit as much. We ended up with a lot of rain in the start of summer, and then we ended up with almost 2 months of no rain. So I think the later plants didn't do as well as the earlier. I harvested some onions, and I haven't really kept recording the spring onion action. I have a lot of Egyptian walking onions that I harvest from constantly. So I did, however, weigh the onions. I grew 12.312 kilograms. So 12 kilograms is pretty good, seeing as though we're not huge onion eaters in our family. We love onions, but we try not to have as many for various reasons. And so we have more spring onions and leek. Tomatoes. I, again, haven't had a year where I haven't had an abundance of tomatoes, but this year there was an incredible amount of cherry tomatoes and not as much of the saucing or the slicing tomatoes. So a lot of my tomato plants failed, but then I had a lot of cherry tomato plants that came up that self-seeded, and they just came up and just were prolific. And then the ones that I did intentionally plant, they did well as well. I planted 3 or 4 tomatoes plants under frost cloth in August, and they produced the first tomatoes, and I have never ever picked a tomato in December, but the first one was ripe and ready for me to eat in the garden on Christmas Eve. So that was a really, really exciting moment for me to see that frost cloth can make a difference. So we grew 66.541 kilograms of tomatoes, and we bottled a lot of them. I've also frozen a huge amount in plastic bags, a lot of the cherry tomatoes. A lot of people choose the method of bottling tomatoes to take the skins and the seeds out. I just grind them all up together, whiz them in my Thermomix and put them into the jars, and then do a water bathing method with those. And they work really well. We've got lots and lots of jars in our store. Beetroot. So I picked the first lot of beetroot on the 15th of January, and there were a few harvests after that. Every time I harvested the beetroot, I made pickled beetroot. So they went into jars. I gave some to my mum to make a batch of pickled beetroot as well. So we grew around 17.5 kilograms of beetroot. Carrots. We had quite a bit of success with carrots. I talked about how I tried the plank method of putting a plank over the seeds that I had sown to keep the moisture in. Well, I found that just introduced all the bugs to come and eat all the little seedlings that had started coming up. So I chose to try putting frost cloth over the rows of seeds that I sowed, and they worked really, really well. I'm excited to expand that and try and grow more, even more this year. So I grew around 8.5 kilograms of carrots. Very excited about that. I feel like I haven't grown carrots to that extent in a long time. Cucumbers were a massive fail. The plants that I kept planting into the ground just weren't succeeding, and in the end I think we harvested 2 cucumbers from our garden, which were all around 0.5 kilogram in size. So not a lot of cucumbers for us this year. Last year we were just drowning in cucumbers, and this year we're not. So I'm interested in trying to figure out why that might have been. I think I was a bit ambitious and planted the plants a bit too early. So I'm going to plant them later this year. I'm going to wait until all that the frost or the cold sort of nights have gone past, and then I will plant them in. I think I'm even going to try planting them at the beginning of summer. We shall see. I'll do a few plantings and see what happens, but I think my plants got too cold, and then when they did thrive, sort of start to show some life, they died from the heat and lack of rain that we had. Capsicums and eggplants were also on that path. I think I planted them way too late, in fact, and they didn't get enough of that early rain that we had. They were fruiting and they were all set to go, but then we got that frost in April and they all died. So I lost a bit of fruit on the plants. I got around 1.5 kilos of capsicum and around 0.5 kilo of eggplant. Now that's all I've recorded in the vegetables. I do grow other things. I grow lots of herbs. I grow lots of leek. This year for the leek, I feel like I didn't grow as much in the growing season. I'm sort of growing them now. So sometimes there's only enough time to dedicate towards certain vegetables, and so I just focused on these ones that I've grown quite a lot of. Now I did start weighing all the fruit, but I don't think we weighed everything that we harvested. We definitely ate some, gave some away without weighing them, and the birds came and ate a lot of the fruit as well. So I just weighed what I intentionally brought in and preserved. So we got over 40 kilograms of apples, which is really great considering some of our apple trees are still quite young. And also the cockatoos like to come and rip the apples apart. They just leave a big mess of chewed up apples. It's almost like they're just trying to get to the seed and eat the seed. Although I think I do see seed out there as well. So I'm not sure what they're doing. They're being a bit destructive when it comes to apple harvesting time, and they do like to attack the trees. But 40 kilograms was pretty good, and I got a lot of it into jars for us to enjoy, and we also have some in the fridge as well. Plums. So this includes all of the plums. So we have prune plums and we have other plums as well, mainly European plums. So we got 9.2 kilograms of plums, and I did end up bottling quite a few of them in halves, which was nice. And we just eat the prune plums fresh because they are absolutely delicious. Nashis. So we got another bumper crop of nashis, although I'm pretty sure last year there were more of them. This year there were less, but they got bigger. They were quite a decent size. And we got around 4.5 kilograms of nashis. Pears. So other pears other than nashis, we got just over 23.5 kilograms of other pears. And I did end up preserving a few of the pears, but we also just ate a huge amount of pears, and I put some in the freezer, I also stewed some with apple, and we jarred those as well. So that is the first year that I have actually weighed everything that I have preserved, and I'm excited to see what happens in the next growing season. I hope you enjoyed hearing about how our summer and autumn growing went, and I'd love to hear in the comments how your season went as well. So write me a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you all and hear how your winter gardens are doing also. I hope you are far ahead than I am, because I'm quite behind on my winter garden. I hope your garden is flourishing and you are enjoying some rest this winter. Enjoy. See you next time.